was rough. My day equally was rough, and so I've been out working all day.
Yeah.
And in order to join, I have to do it remotely. Can't be in the
Understandable.
studio with my nice background and everything like that. But
Dang it.
so I'm here. I made it. I made it with 5 minutes to spare out of the last job that
You
I
were
had.
ahead of me. Hey, you were here before I was.
And I'm headed to another job afterwards. So I've got
There you
nothing,
go.
and I've got an hour of drive in between. So
Well, there you
I'm
go.
currently in Tahlequah,
Oh, really?
Oklahoma. So
That's very,
yep,
very good. What are
and
you doing
that's
in
where I'm.
Tahlequah?
With that?
What are you doing in Tahlequah? My family hails, as they say, from Tahlequah. What are
Oh
you doing in
well,
Tahlequah?
it was the first place that I landed when I moved here from California.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, landed in Tahlequah, and then moved to the out into the country outside of Tahlequah. Spent a few years there, and then moved into Tulsa, where it actually is better for what I do.
Right, right,
Being in a around a resident, a suburbia.
right.
It's
That
better
kind of,
for what I do.
I'm glad you
So,
said that because that leads me into one of the things. I don't know if you heard today, Bynum was on the radio talking about he usually allows other mayors of other cities to kind of do it their way in their city, which I thought was benevolent, because what the heck,
he's so all
it's
powerful.
so awesome because we know he's not going to run for anything after this anyway. So it's nice of him to spread the, power that he has. But what he's saying is that when other cities impact Tulsa, then he feels like he has to step up and say something about. In fact, we'll just dare ourselves to see what we can find here in the. He No, I'm not seeing it. I had it brought up where he was discussing the fact that he stays to his own business in Tulsa, but when other cities are doing something, because he says we're a metro hub, and so other cities do stuff, so he wants other cities to pass a mask mandate because it's
Right.
affecting our Tulsa thing. Now, one of the things also that they says is that this virus doesn't recognize a zip code, which I think is interesting because he talks about all his health data based on zip code. So if this virus doesn't recognize a zip code, how is it that all his zip code data recognizes a zip code?
Well, right. Well, that's just because his power is by zip code. That's it.
Right.
His actual authority is over only certain zip codes.
Right.
The biggest problem is that he doesn't care about limits to his authority. He just wants to do whatever he wants to do, and
Right.
that's the sickness, the disease of all government elected officials at this point. They
Right.
all want that.
Right.
So yeah.
Well,
But
I
anyway,
just
Tahlequah is beautiful, but it looks like it's about ready to rain. So we'll see. If you start hearing raindrops, it's probably on the
Oh, really? You're getting rain
cards.
out there.
No, it just looks like it's ready to, but it
Right.
often will just pass and not actually rain. But it may rain before the end of the show. We'll see.
Very good. Very good. Well, now I had a thing here recently where I'm going to try to share this. Is that working for you? Can you see that?
Yep.
So I got Facebook checked on this fine site. Let me make sure what I've got going here. So I reposted this thing from somebody on August 22nd, and just the other day, it was the Facebook checkers came on to me because I had done something that they said was partly false information. I hope you can see it here. Let me just make sure that there we go. So they explained to me that this concept that Hitler had defunded and eliminated the police departments, that was somehow false, partly false. To me, partly false is always partly correct. It's just the way I look at the
Right.
other side of the coin. So I went on to explain, to try to correct the fact checkers and this is one of the problems we have. I'm hoping to get some feedback from you, Oldham, on one of the problems we have translating from today's popular writers, that is authors and movers and shakers, fact checkers, so to speak, from what is actual meaning of words. So my concept is that Germany's government by decree began, and that is a quote, government by decree. It literally is, this is all from basically Wikipedia. Government by decree began March 29th, 1930, and that effectively deauthorized the Weimar's Republic's police, and that is police by democratic constitutional justification. The point I'm trying to make is that the fact checkers are talking about how they're trying to compare police like we know them in America to police like Hitler had. And Hitler had political apparatchiks. They were not democratically constitutional justified police. They were not police from the community. Further, the Enabling Act of March 23rd, 1933, in my opinion, should be considered the final nail in the funding, if you want to call it that, of traditional Weimar police forces. That is, the Enabling Act, basically, the first one deauthorized it. The second one totally made it obsolete. That there was no reason to have a police force once Hitler was in charge. The other thing I got in trouble for from the fact checkers was that they said there was no high scale defection of police officers, etc. There was no high level of resignation, etc. And I said and they said the assimilation of officers at the time was quite easy, and that Hitler actually expanded the police. And my comment was that the following assimilation of law enforcement professionals into the one-party National Socialistic government was relatively easily integrated by coercion and the use of force. There were no wholesale resignation of policemen because there were no options to resign to an authoritarian tyrannical dictatorship. So perhaps there's you don't resign to the Fuhrer. It's like, I'm not in the mafia anymore. Yeah, really? Okay. Resign to who? There was one party. You don't resign to anybody. You were either on the menu or at the table. My suggestion was, and then Oldham, I want to hear your comments. Perhaps the fact checkers would prefer the use of the phrase redistribution of police funding rather than defunding. What do you think I'm saying?
Well, I think you're correct. My history on the policing and the change of police, especially in under Nazi Germany and after the end of the Weimar Republic, that I'm fairly weak on. But one thing that has always stuck out to me in anything that I've read or heard about it was that the police were conflicted. They wanted to remain police and do the job of a police officer, and they were willing to then go along with the Nazi version of it. And so what you had police who were willing to get rid of the Jews, who transport the Jews, arrest them and deport them, and then eventually send them off to the concentration camps. You had them who were willing to be police, wear the Nazi uniform, but supposedly not be Nazi. And
Right.
so all of that is true. There's a mishmash of things. I hate the way these the Facebook censors and the various tech censors are going around and mincing at words, trying to make something look false. And it's always somebody on the right. It's very rarely anybody on the left, although I did see one that was partly false the other day on the left. It was really all false, but that from their perspective, they liked it. So I do think you're correct, and I think that a lot of it, and I don't know how much Germans were allowed to resign the police force, but as we so often hear from police today, they don't want to, and they don't know where else they would turn, and they don't want to lose their profession. And I think you saw very much the same at the time.
Right, the equity that they have in their profession, they don't want to lose their. I mean, it's not as simple as I want my pension. It doesn't come down to a simplistic idea. I want my. It's like, look, I've done this thing in my family for usually, especially with law enforcement and military, it's usually a family calling in a way, and so. What I thought was kind of amazing and really Orwellian. I mean, I'm not easily shocked. Clearly not. Blake Barber's here with us watching. Thank you, Blake. And so because Blake is here, I'm quite easily not shocked. But really Orwellian in the fact that Ben Shapiro was talking just last week about. He went deeper, into the fact checkers, and he talked about, I forget which one of them that he was discrediting because they're not credible, and Facebook is continuing to use these people as a credible source of fact checkers. But what I'm amazed at is that
PolitiFact.
Was it okay?
I saw his show, but that particular show, and it was PolitiFact that he was talking about, which is a left-leaning.
Yeah, and.
Group.
I mean, so what I am amazed at is that I don't consider that I'm as certainly at the level of Shapiro or some other level where we're worried about ratings and stuff. And yet Facebook has got their thumb on me, and it took them 30 days to find out I had reposted something that somebody else said that was just a picture of Hitler. I mean, this is amazingly a fine-tooth comb that they are getting all the way down to making sure that my fly is zipped up. Hey, if you've just joined us, I forgot to set up the whole show because we just came rolling right out of the chute. Tommy McCay here, your host. David Oldham, thankfully here to discuss the death of RGB, et cetera, and the constitutional implications and all the other stuff that matters. Bynum, again, I'm going to try to get off this real quick because I just touched on it. We're kind of bleeding over into everything, but I am amazed at his hypocrisy on the zip code. And that is, he claims to use his disease control, the lifespan, he says, of a person lives so many years less if you grow up in a certain zip code in Tulsa. But I've done the research, and the lifespan of a zip code is only 9 years. So when you have a human that lives quite a lot longer from a lifespan concept, the idea that you could calculate some disease and or otherwise health issues according to zip code is by and large totally ridiculous. That is, people move on the average at least 9 years. I know people who live in their parents' house that they grew up in, and it's very unusual, and even they moved out of their zip code. So, but now, go ahead.
Just as an aside to that, so what? To this vitamin
Dang it.
code,
yeah.
It's like, so what? Fine. It's good information. Great. But so what? Because you don't have any authority to do anything about it. So what's the point? What's your point? If you want to help the people in that zip code, then go do that. But don't just talk about it as excuse to then dictate to the rest of us. And that's what he ends up always doing. There's always an ulterior motive for all this, supposed
Well, he has this elitist position that whatever he thinks is right, according to some moral evaluation, whether it's the virus and a mask or children playing in rainwater, he's going to shame or not shame you, depending on whatever it is. I mean, he's way outside his elitist bounds, and he pretends that, again, he comes into the office and says, all I want to do is be mayor like my daddy, and then, or whatever, my granddaddy a million years ago, and it's just the way it is. I just want to do this one thing. But then he's like, Oklahoma City, you really ought to. Well, hell, he argues with the governor, too. The governor, I don't know, governor, shouldn't we lock down the whole state? I don't know. Thank God we got the governor for the governor, and the mayor's just the mayor. We'd be totally jacked. Oh, my God.
Well, I would like it if Governor Stitt would actually put his foot down and rein in these mayors, because they are
well, they're insubordinate. Yeah.
Well, they're being insubordinate, but they are underneath the state, and they are corporations of the state. In fact, I've just learned about something. Do you know that we could use a court process to actually dissolve the corporation that is Tulsa?
No, how's that work?
Start afresh. Well, it's a court process called quo warranto, and in our Oklahoma statutes, if someone or a corporation does something that would disqualify them from their corporate status or their official position, then you can use this complaint, this process, for them to have to give account for what they did and answer these charges that they had abused their position and that they are truly disqualified. And if they lose the process through the court process, then they're out. And if you're out in Oklahoma, you're out for good. So we could do that. We could also do that to, dissolve various courts, various. It's doubtful that it'll ever come to that. But there was a court case in 2006 where they were trying to dissolve a rural water district for violating their clients' rights or other people's rights with their use of the water. They were misusing the water, and so the state was going after them using this process. And if they dissolve their state charter, their state corporate charter, their corporation, then they're out of business. It's done.
Okay, that's understandable. But actually, because when it comes down, when the whole thing is this, and correct me, please, the city, does it lease the land from the county? I believe counties own lands. Cities don't. They might own properties, but not. Am I right about that?
See, it's incorporation. So they incorporate particular parcels of land into the city. The rest is unincorporated and it remains in the county. And the incorporation is because it's under the corporation that is the city. That's why the city always says we got to run like a business, and we got to serve our clients like a corporation would. And it's like, no, that's not the type of corporation you are. You're a governmental corporation. You're not a business corporation. And I think that's something that we as citizens need to start looking into, because they're formed differently. They have different purposes of being, and we have to start looking into it, because they've clearly gone beyond not only their corporate charter, but the Constitution.
my gosh,
So,
at least.
you know.
Hey, if you're just joining us, you're listening to David Oldham, constitutionalgrounds.com. Go there for all answers constitutional. I'm Tommy McCay, your host here with 3D Politics every Monday night at 7 p.m. to about 8 p.m. discussing politics with the those that are in the know that have a strong opinion. David, I got to ask you a question about the city council race.
Yeah.
It's really more about my personal. I'm going to be cathartic here and share with you my personal opinion, and you can tell me if I'm wrong or right, and if I'm biased. And there I am. So I'm trying to interview a couple of people who are running for city council. And it is understandable to me to a certain degree, especially with the mayor's interviews that we did. We interviewed every single mayor's candidate except for who? The incumbent. And why is that? Well, there's a certain amount of understanding from a political gamemanship that if you're the incumbent, that's the strongest position that you can hold. And the only thing you can do is lose by saying something stupid. And so there's no reason to really go on anything and say anything if you're the incumbent, which I fully understood that Bynum might not join us due to that. But every other candidate did, even Greg Robinson, which I thought he might be bigger than us, right? Now, we get to the city council race, and, you got to live in a district to make it really matter to the councilor. And so there are two city councilors that are vying for my vote, in my opinion, because they're both in District 7. And I've sent invitations to both of them to be on the show, first on August 21st or 22nd for a Saturday sidebar to talk about the up-and-coming 25th election. And that was back in August. And now I've reiterated the invitation to both those people running in District 7. And the incumbent in District 7 has given me no reply whatsoever. And that's almost to be expected. Now, the challenger, who I've heard nothing good about, especially even from Christian Bengal, who I disagree with a couple things and concepts that Christian Bengal had. I'm still like, he's the right guy for the district. I think he's still the right guy, even though I disagree with, 2025 and a couple of things that his attitudes. It's not about total agreement. It's who's got the best policy. But here's the question about me. If a guy is a challenger in the district I live in, and I've invited him to be on this show, my attitude, I'll just bare my soul here, I don't say, come on my show, and I guarantee you my vote. I'm not like a prostitute. Come on the show, and let's hear you. But if you don't come on the show, and you're the challenger in my district, I'm like, if I can't get you to come on this, how could I ever get you to answer my call as my counselor? So what I'm saying is, I'm not saying if you come on my show, you get my vote, but if you won't come on my show, I can almost guarantee I won't vote for you. Am I bad?
Well,
Am I bad?
That's going to be hard to do, because then you won't vote in your council race, because nobody's going to come on the show if that's the case.
Well, no, I mean, it's not that I'm just saying, if you're not going to win my vote by shutting me out and not, I mean, the answer I got from the candidate in question here was that it's like, if it matters, if you really think it matters for me to be on your show before November 3rd, I'll try to make it work. And I told him I would offer it at any time, any day, to make sure he could be on the show. And I still haven't heard back from him. And I'm saying, he said, after the November 3rd, my schedule will be more freed up. And I'm thinking, after November 3rd, you'll already be or not be my city councilor. So I'm like, why would I expect you to answer my call after the election?
Well,
I'm asking about, me, not him.
Well, we ran into that when I was running, the Republican club. Well, I was vice chair with David, and and we had trouble getting some candidates to come and participate beforehand because they were so busy doing this, that, and the other thing.
Right.
Their
It's
evenings
understandable.
were
Yes.
all tied up. If they came, they were there for a couple of minutes, and then they were off to somewhere else. And
Right.
so we did have that problem. I would encourage them. In fact, I'll reach out. I would encourage them to reach out and at least do an interview sometime else that we could tape and then play next week or something like that. That way they can get they need to get their face out as much as they possibly can.
But
and that's just no ifs, ands, or buts. And I would hope that our audience would have some of their people in it. Now they may also be making a calculated decision, saying, well, the people that would watch our show already would be looking at these challengers as the better people, and so they're trying to spend their time getting to the people that wouldn't already have their mind made up. Now I don't know.
No, I hear you. Yeah.
Those are the calculations that have to go through a candidate's mind, and I fully understand that. So yeah, there are times that you just don't get the people we want to get. I would encourage them to come on because I think there are enough people in Tulsa that you could sway some votes. I really appreciate the feedback. Two things, and one about any candidate and one about me. One of them is that a candidate that is calculating what he does or doesn't do according to like, for instance, in discussions with trying to get other people on the show, the idea was if we take this thing that we do on your show and promote it heavily through advertising, will that benefit you? Me, 3D Politics. And I'm like, it certainly would, but again, we're not in the ratings game. What is more important is the discussion of truth in political policy. And so, right.
So if the candidate is saying, oh, I better calculate whether I get a vote or not if I'm on this show, should be less important, in my opinion, than will I get a chance to discuss my political routine like a comedian would want to do his. He's like, look, I got things I really believe in. And Willie J. Montague in Florida, he's like, I didn't make it for my bid for the Senate, or the Congress, but I'm not done. I have a thing I'm saying. I still want to get him on the show as well. So back to the candidate. If the candidate is looking to benefit from being on our show, that is less about what our show is about, in my opinion. Then this isn't about ratings, or you're not going to win votes here. What we're going to do is test your political policies against public consumption and whether you can fly the test. What do you think, Oldham?
Well, yeah, the big thing is right now they have one thing. They have 45 days. And what they're trying to do right now is garner votes. And especially with the city, there's a whole lot of people. Although you and I are very much interested in the policy, in that it be legitimate, that it be lawful. Those kinds of things, while they're important to us, may or may not be important to the rest of Tulsa or the people in their district. And what they have to do is they have to figure out what's best for them to be able to win so that they can actually help the district.
Do you think accessibility is part of a winning strategy? That is, I'm going to represent you and I'm accessible to you. One of the things I loved about Christian Bengal, he's like, hey, here you go. I'm right here. Here's what I say. I'm like, well, that's great.
Well, it's interesting because these guys are all very accessible. Okay. Now I know all three of the more conservative guys that are running tough races here in Tulsa. and every single one of them are accessible. I know that if I pick up the phone, I could get them on the phone and would be not a problem. Now, that's not necessarily everybody, but I believe they would answer the phone. I don't know that they have my number in there with my name on it.
I got you, but you feel like you can contact them.
But I can contact them. I know that if I reached out to them through social media or something like that, that they would respond, and that we could have a discussion. I also. But I do understand that there is the flip side. There's that nasty flip side to being accessible when it comes down to the final days of a campaign. And it is tough. And I've watched candidates say, look, my time is better spent out knocking doors with people who don't know me. Okay? And whether or not I make any inroads tonight, I believe I will, but rather than going to some place where I already know everybody and they're already on board, I've got to go elsewhere, and that's the calculation that they have to make. And quite frankly, I would do the same thing. But I will actually be reaching out to these guys and encouraging them to come on. I would like to see it be that they're putting enough pressure on the challengers that the challengers want to come on, okay? And for that they need help, because they need more boots on the ground, people knocking doors, and
I mean, I would
because
I would love to draw a distinction between the two people who are running for District 7. I mean, I can't. I really can't see a difference.
Huge differences between the incumbent and the challenger. The challenger is far and away more normal, and
I can't fight back against that.
Well, I mean,
I get you. I've heard nothing but yes. I know.
Because they have their own business, because they work as ordinary small business people.
So they're busy all day. They can't. Right. I get you.
And they do work the business plus run for office and this and that and the other thing.
Okay. All right. I see.
24-hour-a-day thing. But
I get
that's
you.
Justin. And I would well, anyway, I really like Justin.
I've heard nothing but great stuff. And he finally did respond to me, and I said I'd do it anytime, any day that makes it work for him.
He may also not be fully aware of us and our show, and thereby not be fully aware of it. I'll reach out to him and let him know that it's us, so that he can.
Well, and I mean, I'm not the most likable guy. You may be able to. No, I mean, I know people who work for Epic, and they're not going to come on the show. They don't want to.
More the whether or not he knows who we are and who's affiliated with it.
Listen, the guy's busy. He looks like the man. That's all I know. I do. Yeah. I hope that being in his district matters. That's one of the things.
Well,
go ahead, because
for your vote.
Listen, the guy. I can't. I would love to know why. I don't. District 7, I need to know. Same thing I asked Christian Bengal. What's in his district, and what's the problems over there? And he went into it. East Tulsa, et cetera. Okay, so even though I'm in District 7, I don't know what the contenders for the counselor position know. So they're going to know more than I do. I'd like to be able to draw a distinction between Dexter Wright and Van Kirk.
I can tell you, mask mandate versus none dictates from on high to the ordinary people versus none or very little.
Right.
That kind of a thing. From our perspective, from a liberty perspective, he's very much a liberty guy, whereas Dexter Wright has proven to be anything but. She got in office and she's a little drunk with her power.
Well,
You know?
and who wouldn't be? Here she can carry a tune, though. That's what she's got going for her, in my opinion. How long she been there? Do you know?
I don't know.
It's been a while.
I
We got to
I
get.
have not paid that close attention to local stuff, and
Yeah.
it passed me by.
Right, but I think, I mean, from everything I hear, Van Kirk's a guy. I'd like to get him on the show just to question him. I know when I ran for mayor, I even answered Craig Wallander, so I answered everybody as best I could. I got to give hats off here. Thank you, Christian Bengal, for showing, and Blake Barber. He's our greatest critic and greatest fan, but. Blake wants to know, do any Oldham, I'll let you field this from the outside ring. Do any of them, I think Blake means city councilors, have any ideas or just argument around the specifics of the problems? Now, this has been a Blake issue since the beginning of time from 3D Politics. He doesn't want to hear us talk about the problems. He wants solutions, and solutions. So do you think he's right about everybody talking the problem? Now, my solution, of course, for the food desert in North Tulsa is the Bradford Navistar plan. But you tell me what the solution is, David. Oh, no. Do you think Blake's right about we all complain and then nobody's got a solution?
Well, I think that part of the reason that we bring up the problems is to start a discussion to come up with solutions, because it's not about one or two people having the answers. It's about 350,000 people putting our heads together, and in the multitude of all those people, we have good answers rise to the top. You know, like cream rises. We do that if we all start talking about, you know, the actual problems and limits to what we can do, because what government tends to do is they're like, we've got this problem, or we think it's a problem, we want you to think it's a problem, and we want to tell you what to do.
Right.
And it's like, rather than we all discuss the problem and find out, well, you know, okay, let's just take food deserts. Is it really the problem they say it is, or is that really all just bluster because, you know, they're trying to justify all their city government spending on all this stuff, and really there's no problem? Or are there real solutions that come from the community? What does the community actually want that's up there? What do they want? Maybe they wanted that extra Dollar General up there that they were denied. What, you know, or the Family Dollar,
I think this is,
I think it was a Dollar General.
That was Dollar General, yeah. Yeah, but
and they were denied that. Well, where does the government get off denying anybody a business? They don't have the right to deny somebody.
And then Vanessa Hall Harper later says, and this was just last year, like, well, the city council will put in a grocery store. Like, you're not a grocer. You're a city councilor.
Well,
it's ridiculous.
They don't get to put in a grocery store and then deny others competing against it. The point is that they're not a grocer, so they don't have the authority to do that, and they protect their quote-unquote business.
So discussing the problem is, in fact, primary to the solutions, and the reason for that is you cannot fix anything till you know what the problem is, and that's the answer for Blake Barber.
Identify the problem and properly identify the means by which you can go about solving it. So one of the things that I'm in, you know this full well.
Do it though. Send it. Yeah.
Well, you know this full well is that there are limits to what you can do. It's the whole regulation versus prohibition. We have the solutions have to be constitutional. So when we come up with solutions, throw them all out there, throw them against the wall. Let's see and then let's pick through them and see what is constitutional, what's not constitutional, what maybe isn't constitutional can be tweaked slightly so that it is constitutional.
You know, this is a fantastic.
Let's start getting ideas. I would like to hear Blake's ideas and others in the comments. I don't get to watch them while I'm doing the show, but what are the solutions for food deserts, or if you live in these areas, what do you want?
You know, what is constitutional being requisite for a solution is critical. This is one of the problems with the mask mandates, etc.
Exactly.
The people who are medical experts, and God bless them, they're experts in medical science. But what they will be the first to admit is that medical science changes all the time. We'll tell you one thing this week, and then Fauci will tell you something next week, because medical science, well, we learned something. Oh, my goodness. Well, and this is why we don't let medical doctors run political science, because political science never changes, okay? The behavior of people never changes, but medicine always changes. And this is what you're saying. Basically, I'm drawing out of you this concept that the solutions, like the mask mandate, which is unconstitutional, and that's what makes it a non-viable solution to the disease problem. These solutions must be constitutional, and we don't just change our whim of what we're going to do politically based on medical science, because medical science changes all the time. Political science never changes. Ladies and gentlemen, keep listening. We're getting ready to do the Ruth Bader Ginsburg send up. David Oldham's going to tell us everything he thinks about it and knows about it. And I've got comments as well. 3D Politics Live every Monday night here with Tommy McCay, David Oldham, constitutionalgrounds.com. And you can catch me at Tommy McCay on Facebook and Twitter. Now, to set this up, Oldham, I want to, hopefully I can share this screen here. Let me see if I can bring this in. Where is she? It's the tweets and replies, sound, optimize. See if I can bring this in here. You seen this one? I'm going to bring out the sound here. Have you seen this one? Now, this is some beautiful stuff here.
I've heard it. I heard it on the radio, but
now,
I didn't.
This is some of the best stuff you'll see, because it shows the great idol worship. And here we go. So make sure it works. You better work. Look at it giving me trouble. Come on now.
Your computer's working too hard, doing too many things.
Yeah, right. See, no, I say it's the man. I say it's the man.
Trying to keep you down.
That's right. Come on now. It's not going to do it, damn it. Redo that. All right, hold on. Dang it. Let's see if I can get it. Oh, here we go. This is Zoom. This is Zoom, kids. Okay.
I'm driving your car, but
Hold on.
Holy fucking shit, you guys! I'm driving your car, but I just got a notification that Ruth Bader Ginsburg died! Fuck!
Oh!
Could this year get any fucking worse?
I could be dating you.
Ruth! You just had to make it to 2021! Holy fucking
Oh my gosh. That is some of the most entertaining stuff. So listen to this poor millennial. She's like, you're 97. Can't you hold out? However old she is. All you had to do is live, you dead person.
All you have to do is make it to 2021.
I mean, this is nothing but idol worship. I mean, this is some amazing stuff.
Actually, if you stop and think about it, she's very upset at Ginsburg.
Yeah, she's mad because she did. Yeah, she's mortal. That's the problem.
Well, mad because she's mortal. Mad because she didn't. I mean, well, it's not about that, but a lot of the liberals have been very upset because Ginsburg didn't retire when she had the chance, and Barack Obama could have appointed somebody, in her place. And now she died, which everybody kind of has been expecting it for a long time.
Right.
But it came so suddenly.
Well, the timing was screwed, and I think Rush made the point today that they all, and again, it's no surprise. Everybody thought Hillary was in. It was the coup.
I know.
The coup was done. That's why
I think she may have thought the same thing.
Sure.
And liked the thought of Hillary making a Supreme Court choice rather than Obama.
Right.
And so I think that was all, people were doing, we talked about calculations, about bad calculations. There were a whole lot of people who had, rested a whole lot of, vested their decisions and so forth in Hillary making it all the way.
Right.
So, I think that's what happened to Ginsburg. Now the fallout, that's the fun stuff. So,
well, I mean, before you do that, because I mean, I'm interested. You have the constitutional expertise, and I have the desire to know. How have we always calculated the Supreme Court justice from a political standpoint? What I'm saying is, it's not like they talk about what Ruth Bader Ginsburg did to pass a law or not, but really, I mean, she's on a team. She's not the only person. It's not like she either went along with the majority or dissented. It's not like she did things. Am I wrong or right? I'm not trying to disparage her. I have no idea the stuff she's done in copyright, et cetera, but tell me what you think about my question.
Well, the problem is what everybody calls the politicization of the court. Because let's be straight here. The court is to be apolitical. The court must rule on the Constitution and rule on the law. They are subject to the Constitution and the law themselves. Okay? The
Right.
only thing that they are not subject to in the law, in the statutes, is when the statutes violate the Constitution, they must declare so and make sure that those statutes are not upheld. Okay? That is the duty of a judge. Now, this whole thing about it being political is about people trying to, well, on the right, it's really about, although it often gets into religious tyranny and stuff like that, they really want to use the political power to just rein in government. Okay?
Right.
Whether it means go all the way back to proper constitutional governance, at the very least, they want to rein in government.
Oh, this is a great point.
But
point. It's like the ultimate backstop. Yeah.
Right. On the left, they want to use it to change culture through the court. And that's where they talk about changing things. They do want to do it, and at times want to do things that the right won't. For instance, the right has been big on prohibition, okay? And a lot of your prohibitionary acts have come and been started and really maintained by the right. Now, the left is joined in wholeheartedly,
Right.
for one reason or another. But the left is wanting to change some of that. So that women have their rights upheld is a good thing. Sadly, the right didn't do it as well as the left. And the left has done a pretty bad job, and it's kind of like, it's like you govern yourselves correctly, otherwise others will govern you as they see fit. That's the kind of the old adage. And that's been the problem. The right has not dealt constitutionally, and so the left has come in when the right has made errors. The left has come in and said, okay, we're gonna do this our way and make sure that it's fair our way.
Well,
that's the politicization of the whole thing. Really, I just like to see all this politics kind of talk go away, and us get to just constitutional governance. And then, you know what? I don't care about the other things. I might join in just because it's fun, but give my subjective opinion. But the thing is that when it comes down to, do I have rights to have a business, open a Dollar General in North Tulsa? Yes, I have that right, and a judge needs to uphold that right. Does a woman have a right to open that Dollar General in North Tulsa? And will a judge uphold her right? Will it have to be a left-leaning judge? Will it have to be a right-leaning judge? Who's going to do it? It should be any judge.
Unfortunately, the left, and that would include the libertarians at this point, have justified women's rights not in the name of humanity, but in the name of deviancy. And that's the problem, is that it's the same problem with Black Lives Matter. They come out and say this abuse of this human person is wrong because he's black. And no, it's wrong because he's a human. That is like literally not what we're talking about, is his skin tone. Okay, so this is the problem. And the left has beat out the right, like you're saying, in supporting these individual rights, but they've placed it off the nail's head into deviancy, suggesting anything you want to do, is good because you're free, which they're leaving out all the morality. It's basically the difference between the French Revolution, the American Revolution. French Revolution wasn't guided by anything but human desire, etc., and there was some sort of morality based in the American Revolution. What do you say, Oldham?
No, you're absolutely right. It's what I wish the Black Lives Matter people, that I could get with them and we could sit down and have a discussion, because I think that their movement could help all people if they got out of the race, so much of the race issue, the racial overtones, and left it with the human rights violations.
What about what about the Marxist overtones? I mean, what do you mean you're going to talk to these people?
That's a separate issue, and not everyone has that. If that's really what it's all about, then there's no help.
Yeah, there's no discussion there. Yeah,
there's no discussion when you're talking Marxism, because that is a wholesale rejection of individual rights. Because individuals don't have rights under Marx. Only the wider community in total has rights, and you must subjugate your rights for the good of the community. That's why it's communism.
Yeah, right. Because the individual goes to hell in order that the group gets what they need.
Right.
Yeah, the problem with communism is that this is the Animal Farm was the greatest, because I got 5 kids, so I got to teach this all along the way. I said, oh yeah, from each according to their ability, to each according to their needs. So the wolves, they do a lot of hard work, and the little duckies do the tiny work, and everybody does what they can according to their ability. And then at the end of the day, when everybody's hungry, the duckies get to eat what they need, which is grain and stuff. But then the wolves get to eat. And you know what the wolves eat? Duckies. The wolves eat duckies. That's socialism for you, kids. Hey, if you're just tuning in, once again, 3D Politics, I got Blake Barber on the line, hot, trying to defend libertarians. By God, we'll do a whole 90-minute version of me tearing the libertarians down. Those poor libertarians, they don't know which ways come here from Risseghem. Shit, you find them, get them on the show. So I'm telling you, they could come here from Risseghem, but the non-aggression pact, or whatever, but non-aggression principle.
The non-aggression principle
right.
is the Constitution is the non-aggression principle.
Sure.
Codified.
I had this discussion with Rex Lawhorn, and when we met later, they were like, "Well, when you start talking the 10 amendments, you know, the Bill of Rights, that's more libertarian than I ever heard." I'm like, "Hell yeah!" I mean, they were telling me I should be libertarian because I was speaking the Bill of Rights, and I was saying, "Why don't you guys just be constitutional anyway?"
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
The thing is, let's quit reinventing the wheel. Let's just get back to actually
Right.
enforcing our law.
So
if they would help with that, I would have no problem.
So tell me this about reinventing it, and then I want to do a little more on. I want to do her some justice, and I got a question about feminism and her, Ruth Bader. What about the two-party system? The way I learned it, we learned it from Montesquieu, and our founding father said, look, a bicameral system's the best way. It's more stable than a three-party system and multiple dictators. Even Israel is, you know, plagued by, you know, just ballast all the time because they've got this. They always have to build a plurality or whatever it's called, a coalition or whatever. So what do you think about these? So the libertarians and others are pushing a lot of times for we need a third party. So I'm like, I'm not in favor of a rank voting or whatever they call it. And also a third party thing. I think the third party, pick a side of the coin, for Christ's sake. What do you say, Oldham?
Well, I actually like parliamentary systems in the way that they do tend to work. The thing about America, and this is something that George Washington addressed in his farewell address to the nation, was he warned about parties because they were starting to come in. Washington is the only unaffiliated president we've ever had. Every other president has been affiliated with one party or another.
Right.
He warned that the party system would tear things apart constitutionally, that it would lead us down paths that would not be lawful, that would not be constitutional. And he has been held correct to that. So he's
how is that not a one?
How
is that suggestion not a one party system then?
Well, it basically was, but he wanted us to be united united in liberty. Really, back in the days, you know, at the beginning, the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, it was over a particular issues of, you know, surrounding the Constitution, and then you ended up with the Tories and the Whigs and then the Democrat Republicans, which Jefferson was the first president under them. But you know, you had the Federalists and then the Democrat Republicans. The real issue was that we not go all in for party, but we remain American and we remain constitutional. Then on the other issues that government can address, that we find valid American solutions, not party solutions. Because as soon as you start going down the party lines, you're going to start dictating.
Similar to what I was saying earlier, referencing what you were mentioning about with the solutions must remain constitutional. We can be united in that the discussions of differences of solution, we can at least agree whatever the solution, she must be constitutional. A few more comments before we get out of here. You've been listening to Tommy McCay with 3D Politics every Monday night right here on Facebook Live. I've got David Oldham with constitutionalgrounds.com. All things constitutional. Go check it out, constitutionalgrounds.com. Blake Barber is always hounding us, and thank God he is, or otherwise it would have anybody to play to. I think earlier Christian Bengal was there also. I appreciate everybody for showing up. But back to the Ruth Bader Ginsburg. What I understand is she did a lot of stuff having to do with copyright. People she knew and loved were like authors and et cetera. And so she did a lot of moving and shaking in a lot of areas besides the whole abortion thing that she decided to support. But me being an anti-feminist, and that is I don't believe there's a difference in races. I believe there's a difference in genders, though. And so, because I'm not a racist, but I am, anti-feminist. I mean, I'm an anti-feminist. I was raised by feminists, and I know they're basically socialists in a skirt. And so, I just, where was I, Oldham? I want to know, in the future, do we really need these three parties or just two? I'm like Biden now. I've totally lost it.
I think a multitude of views is really important. I love the balance that you get from a multi-party parliamentary system, like in Israel or in
ranked choice voting. I believe ranked choice voting. Blake corrected me. No, I've remembered. I remember my thought here, and that is. Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying that I like the fact that having to build a coalition tends to bring everything toward the center, or certainly the direction of the mood of the public at the time. The problem that you see in a lot of these systems is because of the form of government that they have that underlies it. They don't have the Constitution we have. It ends up being this democratic republic sort of thing, and everything is always open for reconsideration, and you never can count on the rule of law and the rock solid bedrock like we have with our Constitution. That's the problem. That's the only problem with those systems. But I do like the fact that these other parties do get a chance to get their voice heard. And sometimes you could be in a very minor party and pick up a cabinet post, pick up a portfolio. In the parliamentary system, it's kind of they call it a portfolio. And you get this posting that's actually very important, and you become an important member of the government, and you are in a serious minority. You then may or may not pay a political price for joining in with the coalition. But you can also, if people don't like what's going on, they can remove their support and bring down a government that just started. So, we don't, and call for a no confidence vote for the prime minister. And if that's the case, then they have to go to elections, and they have elections all over again. And they might have an election every couple years. So yeah, I like it, really, personally.
So thanks for covering. I appreciate you covering for me in my once I go on an anti-feminist tangent, sometimes I will just fly off the rails. My question, and I appreciate you filling for me while I came back. Blake said more avocado. He's like, so my thing about the reason I brought up the feminism was because I believe I'm trying to pay honor to Ruth Bader Ginsburg for the great things she did. And I believe the moniker of her as a feminist or an icon of feminism literally detracts from her greatness. What say you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I have never been a fan of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and especially once I became, a constitutionalist and read the Constitution. There's very little that she has done that has been valid. Actually, one of her last judgments, she was in dissent along with Judge Gorsuch. And I'm trying to remember the case. All of a sudden, it's gone out of my head. But it was just in the last couple months, and
she's famous for dissent more than she is for any other. This is standard, right?
But the thing was, even in her dissent, she was wrong constitutionally.
Okay.
The real thing is that she was not a constitutional judge, not whatsoever. She is famous for saying that she believes the Constitution is passé, and that we need to look outside to other governments, European governments and so forth, to figure out how to judge our law today. She would not judge by the Constitution. She wanted to judge according to whatever standards she had in her own head, which that means there is no law except Ruth Bader Ginsburg,
Right.
from her perspective. And that's a problem. That ruins it for me. Now, her feminism, the real problem is that feminism isn't. It's not pro-woman so much as it is pro-feminist, and that is good for the feminist, but not so much for women in general.
It's simply another group association. It's not individual rights. It's another group right. And we don't experience liberty or oppression as a group. It's always experienced individually. Kids, we got to get ready to get out of here. I don't know what you think, David Oldham. Anything else before we get out?
Well, I do want people to start paying attention to several things. Voting, specifically this past weekend, we have illegal irregularities in Pennsylvania. The governor says that your signatures don't have to match when you do mail-in voting.
That's handy.
The court says that strict rules for getting your votes in on time don't have to be abided by, even though those rules were set by the legislature in Pennsylvania. At the same time, they kicked off of the ballot a Green Party candidate who would make it tough, take away votes from Joe Biden. And they did it based on the fact that he didn't meet strict guidelines that were set in place. The problem is that the Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution says that it is the state legislatures that set the rules for elections. No one else but the legislatures. The governor can't do it. The courts can't do it. The legislatures, the judges can judge whether or not something has been done according to the legislature's rules, but the courts cannot, unless it's unconstitutional. They cannot change things. They cannot add or take away from what the court's done. Michigan likewise has done some things just this morning or over the weekend, and came out this morning, that is going to perchance change they're going to give 2 weeks to get your mail-in vote in and count the vote. So all of this stuff could change the electoral landscape. So if you're on the right and you think that there isn't a chance for ballot harvesting, ballot fraud, and so forth, then you're not paying attention, and the electoral map could change. But there is a constitutional answer for it, and that is the 14th Amendment, Section 2, which says that those people, those states that cheat, they do not get their electors sacked.
So they're risking the entire influence they have if they cheat and get caught.
Correct. According to the 14th Amendment, we need to start talking about these things. People need to know Article 2, Section 4. They need to know Article 2 or the 14th Amendment, Section 2, because if we're not talking about it, then, they may cheat and still get their electors sat, and we'll end up with a totally fraudulent president this next go around. And quite frankly,
didn't we do that before?
House races as well as down ballot.
Yeah.
So
these are all critical
it's
issues.
Not quite the same, but we can affect other people in other states, and we talking about it here as well as to our friends in those other states.
Right. In fact, as we get out of here, I think that one of the things that we're seeing from Bynum, the reason he's starting to talk about other cities and he wants to control what they do too, is because he's seeing that people are not really interested in wearing the mask, and he really wants to play the game. He's part of the Bloomberg things, backed by Bloomberg, etc. David Oldham, thanks for being here. I appreciate all your insight, and we're going to do it again next Monday, I hope again. David Oldham, constitutionalgrounds.com. Tommy McCay right here at 3D Politics, Facebook and Twitter. I want to thank everybody for showing up. Blake Parker, always there. God, Blake, you better be here Monday, Blake. I expect it. And he says he has some hot stories about how effed up the census is. I'm sure I'm interested. Once again, we'll see you guys next week. Oldham, I'm sending you out. Thanks for being here.
See you in the comments, guys.
Okay, we'll see you guys later.